Commander's hands shook as another explosion rocked the gentle dawn. The colony's ship's hull groaned under the assault, metal screaming in ways it was never designed to endure. Through the viewport, she could see them, dozens of vessels swarming like insects around a dying animal. Hull breach on decks 4 and 7, her communications officer reported, voice tight with fear. They're boarding us. Closed her eyes. Her crew of 300 were scientists, farmers, families seeking a new world. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back against raiders who lived for violence. Send the distress call, she ordered. All emergency frequencies, maximum power. Her officer's fingers danced across the console. Transmitting now. The nearest council patrol is 5 hours away. 5 hours. They would all be dead or taken in 1 hour. They didn't kill quickly. They valued living cargo more than corpses. Watched the main screen as drones cut through the outer airlocks. Each drone was a nightmare of metal and claws, designed for one purpose, taking ships apart and everyone inside them. Her people were running, hiding, but there was nowhere to go on a colony ship. Commander, we have a response. Hope flared in his chest. Council ships. No, ma'am. Unknown signature they identify as human. Had never heard of humans. The galaxy was large, with thousands of species in the Galactic Council. Perhaps this was a new member species, one she hadn't studied yet. What do they say? The officer read the message, confusion clear in his voice. Hold position. Relief force inbound, 29 minutes. 29 minutes. Impossible. Nothing moved that fast through space. It had to be a translation error or a cruel joke from pirates who monitored distress frequencies. Verify their position, ordered. Ma'am, their fleet signature shows they were 3 light-years away when they received our signal. There's no way they can. The sensor display lit up with new contacts, far closer than before. 5 massive signatures, moving at speeds that made the navigation system flag errors. They're here, the officer whispered. Across the void of space, Captain stood on the bridge of the UNS, watching the tactical display with cold calculation. His ship was the largest in the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, a warship built in Earth's orbital yards with one purpose, to protect human interests in a galaxy that didn't quite trust them yet. Distance to target, he asked. Lieutenant O checked her console. 200,000 kilometers and closing. Will be in weapons range in 90 seconds. Studied the enemy formation. 43 vessels surrounding one disabled colony ship. There were known raiders operating in the lawless regions between council space. They preyed on the weak, avoided the strong, and generally weren't stupid enough to pick fights they couldn't win. Today they would learn what it meant to threaten someone under human protection. Send a message to those ships. Tell them to withdraw immediately or be destroyed. His fingers moved across her controls. A moment later she shook her head. No response, Captain. They're ignoring us. Their mistake. Activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships weapons-free. Target the vessels only. Watch your fire around the colony ship. Our job is to protect those people, not add to their problems. Acknowledgments came from the 4 other ships in his fleet, the UNS, and moved into attack formation with practiced ease. Captain said quietly, we're not authorized to engage without council approval. Humans are still probationary members. Looked at her. Those people asked for help. We're here. What does authorization matter if they're all dead while we wait for permission? Smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Just making sure we're on the same page, sir. Always our lieutenant. Fire when ready. The spoke first. Magnetic accelerators flung tungsten slugs at a fraction of. At these velocities, the projectiles carried kinetic energy equivalent to small nuclear weapons. The first raider simply ceased to exist, ripped apart by impacts it never saw coming. The second and third raiders tried to scatter. It didn't help. The human targeting systems had locked on before firing, and the slugs adjusted course with micro-thrusters. More ships exploded in silence. Aboard the Gentle Dawn stared in disbelief at her sensors. The human ships weren't just fast, they were devastating. Their weapons operated on principles she'd never seen before. No plasma, no particle beams, just solid metal moving faster than anything had a right to move. Half the fleet died in the first 30 seconds. The remaining raiders panicked and did exactly what cornered animals do. They attacked. Weapons fire lit up space as they turned on the human fleet. Their plasma cannons were state-of-the-art raider technology, capable of melting through standard Council ship armor. The human ship's shields absorbed the hits and kept coming. "They're not even slowing down," the officer said in awe. They watched the fire wash over his shields. Damage report. "Shields at 92%, reported. "Their weapons are less effective than our models predicted." "They probably don't fight armored targets very often," gestured to the tactical officer. "Deploy boarding teams. I want the cleared from that colony ship." In the hangar bay, Commander Lee checked his combat shell's power levels one last time. The mechanized armor stood 8 feet tall and turned a human soldier into a walking weapons platform. His team of 40 Marines stood ready in their own shells, weapons loaded and sealed. "Listen up," said over the team channel. "Friendly casualties aboard that ship. The colonists are non-combatants, probably scared out of their minds. Drones are hostile, you know the drill. Clean, fast, professional. Nobody plays hero, nobody takes stupid risks. We get in, clear the decks, and get those people to safety." His second-in-command, Corporal Park, activated her weapon systems. Rules of engagement. "Get one chance to surrender. After that, put them down." Climbed into the boarding pod, his team following. 30 seconds to launch. The pod was basically an armored bullet designed to punch through ship hulls. It had minimal maneuvering, no comfort, and could fit 8 Marines in full combat gear. It was also absolutely terrifying to ride in. Loved it. Launch in 3, 2, 1. The magnetic catapult threw the boarding pod toward the Gentle Dawn at crushing acceleration. Human bodies could withstand it. Barely. Most species would have been turned into paste. The pod hit the colony ship's hull and drilled through. Shaped charges blew the entry hole open and was first through the breach. The corridor beyond was a scene from a nightmare. Bodies lay scattered, some still breathing. Drones scuttled through the passages, their mechanical limbs clicking on the metal floor. Helmet sensors painted them red, hostile threat. He raised his rifle and started firing. The drones were fast and tough by galactic standards. Against human military technology and training, they lasted about 4 seconds each. His team moved through the ship like a well-oiled machine, clearing corridors, securing bulkheads, and finding survivors. They found Commander and 17 of her crew barricaded in the medical bay. The door was reinforced, but it wouldn't have held much longer against the cutting tools. Actually knocked on the door before opening it. "Commander, I'm Commander Lee, United Nations Space Force. We're here to help." The door cracked open, stared up at the armored figure nearly twice her height. When removed his helmet, she saw a human face for the first time, forward-facing eyes, flat teeth meant for tearing, features that spoke of a predator species. "You came," she whispered. "You called," smiled. "We're getting you out of here, can you walk?" Behind him, the sounds of combat echoed through the ship, more human teams clearing more decks. The presence was being systematically eliminated. Looked at this human warrior who had appeared from nowhere to save her people. "Who are you?" Smile widened. "We're from Earth, ma'am, and we don't leave people behind." The battle for the Gentle Dawn lasted 18 minutes. For Commander Lee and his Marines, it felt like coming home. Not because they enjoyed killing, though they were admittedly good at it, but because they had trained for exactly this scenario thousands of times. Room clearing, hostile elimination, civilian evacuation. It was what they did. For the drones still aboard the colony ship, those 18 minutes were an education in why you don't corner a predator species. The team moved deck by deck, their combat shells sensors painting a three-dimensional map of the ship's interior. Every signature showed up bright red. Every life sign glowed green. The mission was simple: keep the green safe, eliminate the red. "Contact corridor junction ahead," Corporal called over the tactical network. Her rifle was already up and tracking. 3 drones cutting through a bulkhead. "Engaging," confirmed. He didn't need to give more orders than that. His team knew what to do. The drones detected the humans and charged. They were fast, built for close combat with razor-edged limbs that could cut through standard armor. Against human marines in combat shells, they might as well have been throwing rocks at a tank. His first burst caught a drone centermass, the high-velocity rounds punching through its armored carapace and destroying the organic core inside. Took the second one with a precision shot that severed its main processing unit. The third drone made it within 3 meters before another Marine hit it with a shotgun loaded with armor-piercing flechettes. "Clear," reported, moving to the next section. Behind the bulkhead they had been cutting through, they found 12 more. The herbivore aliens huddled together, their large eyes wide with terror. They looked at the human Marines and couldn't decide if they'd been rescued or captured by something worse than the... "It's okay," said, his voice gentle despite the armor's speakers making it sound mechanical. "We're friendlies. Can anyone understand me?" One, braver or more desperate than the others, stepped forward. She was small, maybe 4 feet tall, with silver fur and those huge eyes that seemed to take up half her face. Her translator device crackled as she spoke. Are you the humans?" "That's right, I'm Commander Lee. We received your distress call," gestured down the corridor. "We need to get you to the evacuation point. Can you walk?" The looked at her companions, then back at. "We heard sounds, fighting, screaming from the..." "Not anymore," said simply. "They're gone." Above them, in the black of space, Captain watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The fleet was breaking apart. Those ships that could still move were running. Those that couldn't were drifting hulks, torn apart by human fire. "Final count," he asked Lieutenant. 43 vessels engaged, 31 destroyed, 12 fleeing at maximum acceleration. They're heading for the border zones. Paused. "Should we pursue?" Considered it. They had attacked civilians, murdered innocents. Every human instinct he had wanted to hunt them down and finish them. But that wasn't the mission. "Let them run," he decided. "They'll spread the word about what happens when you attack someone under human protection. That's worth more than a few extra kills." Boarding teams report the colony ship is secure, all eliminated. They're gathering survivors now. "Good, have medical teams standing by. I want every checked out before we hand them back to their people." 2 hours later, Commander stood in the cargo bay of the UNS, watching human medics tend to her crew. The humans had set up a temporary hospital that was more advanced than the gentle Dawn's entire medical deck. Wounded who should have died were being stabilized, treated, saved. She found Captain speaking with his officers near one of the medical stations. The human captain was tall by standards. Most humans were, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. "Captain," she said, and he turned to face her. "I wanted to thank you properly. Your people saved us when no one else could." Gave a slight bow, which his translator explained was a gesture of respect in human culture. "We were glad we could help, Commander. How are your people holding up?" "Better than they should be, thanks to your medical staff." Hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering her. "Why did you come? We're not part of your government. We have no treaties with humanity. You risked your ships and your people for strangers." The question seemed to puzzle. "You sent a distress call. We were close enough to respond. What other reason would we need?" Most species would wait for authorization, check if it was politically convenient, calculate the cost versus benefit, looked around at the humans working efficiently to help her people. Your species doesn't think that way. Lieutenant standing beside laughed. Commander, humans have a saying, we can sleep when we're dead. When someone needs help and we can provide it, we don't debate, we act. That must make you very popular with the council, said dryly. Not exactly, admitted. Humans are still probationary members. We're supposed to request permission before engaging in military actions. I'm probably going to get a very stern message from our ambassador about this. But you did it anyway. Of course, said it like there had never been any other option. Your people needed help, we were here, the bureaucracy can catch up later. Studied the human captain trying to understand this strange species that had appeared from nowhere to save her people. Your warriors, the ones in the armor, they're very effective, very intense. Marines, supplied. They're trained for boarding actions and ground combat. Commander Lee's team is one of our best. As if summoned by his name, approached. He'd removed his combat shell and wore a simple duty uniform. Without the armor, he looked less intimidating, though noted the way he moved, balanced, aware, ready for action even in a safe environment. Captain, final sweep is complete. No remaining hostiles aboard the Gentle Dawn. We're ready to hand the ship back to Commander's people. Nodded respectfully to the ma'am. Thank you, Commander Lee. Your team fought bravely. Looked uncomfortable with the praise. Just doing our job, ma'am. Though I have to say, your ship's layout is different from what we trained on. Took us a few extra minutes to navigate. You trained aboard alien vessels? Asked, surprised. We train for every scenario we can think of, explained. Human military doctrine assumes we'll face unknown situations, so we prepare for as many variables as possible. Translator struggled with that concept. Her species had standardized military training generations ago, following Galactic Council templates. The idea of constantly preparing for unknown threats seemed paranoid. Or incredibly wise, given what she just experienced. Your weapons, she said. I've never seen anything like them. The projectile speeds, the kinetic force, it's beyond anything the Council uses. And exchanged a look. It was who answered. Humans come from a high-gravity world, Commander. We build things to withstand forces that would crush most species' technology. Our weapons reflect that. How high is your gravity? 1.0 standard, said. About 40% higher than Council norm. His eyes widened. 40% higher gravity meant humans evolved under crushing pressure by galactic standards. It explained their density, their strength, the way they moved like coiled springs ready to release energy. That must make you quite dangerous. Earth smiled. You could say that. We have predators that weigh several tons, weather patterns that can level cities, diseases that our immune systems fight off daily. Most Council species would classify it as a death world. A death world, repeated quietly, and you're from there. Born and raised, confirmed cheerfully, wouldn't trade it for anything. Looked at the humans around her, these strange, powerful, terrifyingly capable beings who had risked everything to save her people. They smiled easily, moved confidently, and treated violence like a simple problem to solve rather than an existential horror. And they came from a world so dangerous that surviving there made them uniquely suited to save others. Captain, she said slowly, I think the Galactic Council is going to want to know a lot more about humanity very soon. Smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I think you're right, Commander, and I'm not sure they're going to like what they learn. In the distance, the surviving ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing into the dark. They carried with them a new piece of information that would spread through the criminal underworld like wildfire. There was a new species in the galaxy. They called themselves human. And they were absolutely terrifying. Ambassador Bay knew she was in trouble when the Galactic Council called an emergency session within 8 hours of the Gentle Dawn incident. Emergency sessions were rare. They meant something had scared the Council badly enough that they couldn't wait for the regular monthly meeting. She sat in the human delegation seat, a recent addition to the massive circular chamber where representatives from 300 species gathered to debate galactic policy. The seat was still marked "Probationary Member" in glowing letters that everyone could see. The council speaker, a methane-breathing named, opened the session without the usual formal greetings. That was a bad sign. This emergency session addresses the unauthorized military action taken by human forces in Sector 447. Translator made his voice sound flat and emotionless, but could sense the tension. Ambassador Bay, you will explain. Stood, keeping her posture relaxed and non-threatening. Most council species were smaller than humans, and she'd learned that her height could be intimidating if she wasn't careful. The UNS and its fleet responded to a distress call from the colony ship Gentle Dawn. The ship was under attack by raiders. Captain made the decision to render aid. Without council authorization, a representative interrupted. Without following proper protocols, without regard for the established chain of command. There wasn't time for authorization, replied calmly. The Gentle Dawn was being boarded. We're dying. The nearest council patrol was 5 hours away. Captain's fleet was 29 minutes away. That's impossible, someone from the upper tiers said. No one can reach Sector 447 in 29 minutes from the nearest human patrol route. Pulled up a holographic display showing the fleet's jump trajectory. Human faster-than-light drives operate on different principles than Council standard. We can make jumps that other species consider too dangerous. The chamber filled with murmuring. Could see representatives conferring with their aides, probably running calculations on their own systems. Called for order. Dangerous jumps explain speed, not action. The human forces engaged the fleet and boarded the vessel. In doing so, they killed numerous raiders. They were in the process of massacring civilians, said. Human forces offered them the opportunity to surrender. They refused and continued their attack. Our Marines eliminated the threat. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It was helmet camera footage from one of Marines during the boarding action. The council representatives watched in silence as the recording showed a drone charging down a corridor toward a group of cowering. The Marine's rifle came up. One shot, the drone collapsed. Then the Marine moved forward, weapon ready, scanning for more threats. The footage showed cold efficiency, perfect aim, and a level of violence that made several council members flinch. This is what your species calls a rescue, a representative demanded. Yes, said simply. Another hologram appeared, this one showing the strike from the tungsten slug hit a raider and the ship simply disintegrated. Your weapons are barbaric, the said. Solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. This is primitive technology. Primitive but effective, countered, and less dangerous to the colony ship than plasma weapons or particle beams that can pass through targets. Raised a manipulator for silence. Ambassador Bay, the Council requires information about your species' home world and capabilities. We must understand what we are dealing with. This was the moment had been dreading. She pulled up the data file Earth's government had prepared for eventual disclosure. Humanity originates from Earth, third planet in the Sol system. The hologram shifted to show a blue-green world. Gravity, 1.0 standard. Atmospheric pressure, 101.3. Oxygen concentration, 21%. Nitrogen, 78%. The numbers scrolled across the display. Watched the council representatives process them. She saw the exact moment they understood. That's, a representative started then stopped. That's a high-pressure, high-gravity environment. By council standards, yes, agreed. What is Earth's planetary classification? Took a breath. Class 12 Death World. The chamber erupted. Representatives stood, shouting in dozens of languages. The translator system struggled to keep up, caught fragments, Death World species. In the council, we allowed predators among us. Called for order repeatedly. It took several minutes for the chaos to settle. Explain Death World classification, demanded. Brought up more data. Earth is home to numerous species that would be classified as extreme hazards by Council standards, predators weighing multiple tons, venomous organisms numbering in the thousands, microscopic parasites and diseases, extreme weather patterns, tectonic activity that regularly devastates population centers. The hologram showed images: a tiger stalking through jungle, venom dripping from a snake's fangs, a hurricane seen from orbit, a volcanic eruption. And humans evolved in this environment, a representative asked quietly. Evolved to dominate it, corrected. Humans are apex predators. We're also persistence hunters, capable of tracking prey for days until it collapses from exhaustion. We're one of the only species that can consume ethanol, what most of you would call a poison, recreationally. She pulled up an anatomical chart. Human biology is adapted for survival on a death world. High bone density, redundant systems, immune response that fights constant threats, adrenaline response that increases physical capabilities during stress. The armor your soldiers wear, a representative said. How much does it weigh? Checked her notes. A standard combat shell weighs approximately 400 pounds in Earth gravity. And your soldiers can move in this. Run, jump, fight, confirmed. The armor augments human strength, but even without it, humans can carry significant loads over long distances. This explains the violence, the said, though he sounded less hostile now and more frightened. Death World species are aggressive by necessity. Humans prefer peace, said carefully. We've had our share of wars, yes, but we've also built civilizations, created art, explored our solar system. We're not mindless killers. Admiral Menu's hologram appeared beside. He'd been called to testify remotely from his flagship. The admiral wore his dress uniform, ribbons indicating decades of service. Admiral said, "The Council has questions about human military doctrine." "I'll answer what I can," Menu said. "Do your people enjoy combat?" a representative asked bluntly. Menu considered this carefully, could see him choosing his words with precision. "We prefer peace," he said finally. "War is costly, destructive, and painful, but when conflict is necessary, we're very good at it. Earth's history is full of wars. We learned hard lessons about strategy, tactics, and the price of violence. Those lessons made us effective." "How effective?" asked. "The raid on the Gentle Dawn involved 43 vessels. We destroyed 31 in under 20 minutes with minimal damage to our fleet. The boarding action eliminated approximately 200 drones in 18 minutes with 0 human casualties." The numbers hung in the air. Watched the council representatives process them. "You're saying," I said slowly, "that 5 human ships destroyed or routed a force of 43 raiders?" "Yes." "How?" Minu smiled slightly. "Better training, better technology, better tactics, and frankly, more experience with violence than most council species have." "You fought wars recently?" asked. "Earth unified 30 years ago," Minu explained. "Before that, we had multiple nations with conflicting interests. Wars were common. We learned from everyone." "And now you're here," the said, "bringing your weapons and your violence to the council." Stepped in. "We're here because we want to join the galactic community. Yes, we're from a death world. Yes, we're good at fighting, but we're also good at building, creating, and helping. Commander's people are alive because humans responded to their distress call." "But at what cost?" someone asked. "You violated council protocol. You engaged in unauthorized military action. You demonstrated weapons technology far beyond council norms. We saved 300 lives, said quietly. If following protocol means watching people die when we could save them, then the protocol is wrong. The chamber went silent. Knew she'd crossed a line, but she didn't care. She was tired of apologizing for humanity's effectiveness. The council will deliberate, announced. Ambassador Bay, Admiral, you are dismissed. As left the chamber, she pulled up a private communication with Minu. That went well, the Admiral said dryly. They're terrified of us, replied. Can you blame them? We just proved we can outfight one of the galaxy's most feared raider species without breaking a sweat. Minu paused. What do you think they'll do? Watched the council representatives through the observation window, still arguing among themselves. I think, she said slowly, they're going to try to control us, limit us, make sure we're never a threat to them. And if we refuse, then things get interesting. Somewhere in the border regions, commanders gathered to watch the same helmet camera footage the council had seen. They analyzed the human tactics, studied the weapons, tried to understand how such a small force had devastated their raid. They came to a conclusion. This could not stand. The swarm had a reputation to maintain. They couldn't let a new species humiliate them without response. Plans were made, fleets were gathered, a target was chosen. The humans would learn that they did not forgive, did not forget, and absolutely would not be defeated without revenge. Captain Sara was reviewing supply manifests when her sensor officer's voice cut through the routine of new orbital defense station. Captain, we have multiple FTL signatures incoming, lots of them. Sara was out of her chair instantly. How many? Still counting, at least 200, 300, they're still coming. The officer's voice climbed higher. Captain, it's a fleet, a massive fleet. Sara pulled up the tactical display and felt ice form in her stomach. The contacts were appearing at the edge of the system, too many to count quickly. The computer was flagging them as signatures. Sound General Quarters, get me a count and trajectory. Send a priority message to all human vessels in range. She activated the station-wide channel. All hands battle stations. This is not a drill. Below her, Nu was home to 1.2 million colonists. Farmers, engineers, families who had come to this world for a fresh start. The planet was barely 5 years old as a human settlement. Its orbital defenses were basic. One station, some automated weapon platforms, and a few patrol ships. Against a normal raid, it would have been enough. This was not a normal raid. Final count, her sensor officer reported. 314 vessels, all signatures, they're forming attack formation. Sora brought up the communication panel. She recorded a message and set it to broadcast on all emergency channels. All human vessels within jump range of Nu, we have incoming hostiles. 300+ raiders. I'm activating the colony defense grid and requesting immediate assistance. Numbers are significant. I repeat, numbers are significant. She sent the message and turned to her crew. Best guess, how long until they're in weapons range? 2 hours at current speed. 2 hours. Not enough time for Admiral Minu and the Third Fleet to arrive. They were on the other side of human space, but maybe enough time for someone closer to respond. Sora activated the defense grid. Weapon platforms around Nu came online, their targeting systems linking to the station's main computer. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. Ma'am, we're receiving responses. Hope flared, council ships. No ma'am, human vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, survey craft. They're saying they're on their way. Sora pulled up the list. 37 ships had responded. Most were civilian vessels with minimal weapons. A few patrol boats. One heavy cargo hauler that had been retrofitted with for pirate defense. Against 300 raiders, it was suicide. Tell them we appreciate the support, Sora said quietly. And tell them if they want to evacuate their crews to New and run, no one would blame them. Commodore Han received Sora's message aboard his cargo hauler, the Fortune's Favor. The ship was old, from years of hauling ore between mining operations. He'd added weapons after pirates tried to board him 3 years ago, 4 turrets that could punch through most raider armor. His crew of 23 looked at him, waiting for orders. "Captain wants to know if we're running," his first officer said. Looked at the tactical display. 300 ships versus a handful of armed civilians and 1 defense station. The smart move was to run, save the ship, save the crew. Had never been good at making smart moves. "Tell Captain we're not running," he said. "Ask her where she wants our guns." More responses came in. Mining ships with improvised weapons, survey vessels carrying military-grade sensors, even a luxury yacht whose owner had somehow mounted missile pods under the pleasure craft's wings. The fleet kept coming. Aboard the flagship Tooth of Vengeance, War Leader watched the human colony grow larger on his displays. Intelligence on humans was limited. They knew the species was new to the Council. They knew humans had destroyed a raiding party at the rescue. What didn't know was how many ships humans could field. His scouts reported minimal defenses at New, 1 station, some weapon platforms, a few patrol boats. They had brought 300 warships. "We will make an example," announced to his commanders. "The humans will learn that attacking the swarm has consequences. We will take their colony, strip their station, and leave nothing but wreckage." His fleet accelerated toward New. On the defense station, Sora coordinated her motley defense force. She assigned sectors, established fallback positions, and tried to make a plan that didn't end with everyone dead. "The cargo hauler Fortune's Favor wants to anchor close to the station," her tactical officer reported. "Says his have better range from a fixed position." "Granted, put him on our port side where he can support the main defense grid." Sora pulled up a schematic of the system. Mining ships with the best sensors take early warning positions. Survey craft pull back and act as communication relays. Patrol boats form a screening line between thee and the planet. It was a plan that might buy them 10 minutes once fighting started. The first human reinforcements arrived, 4 patrol boats from a neighboring system, then 2 more cargo haulers, then a mining ship that had been halfway to the next star when it received the call and jumped back. 37 ships became 45, then 50. Each one was a civilian vessel crewed by people who should have been safe, running normal operations, living normal lives. Each one had chosen to stand and fight. 1 hour to weapons range, the sensor officer announced. Sora activated her personal log. If she didn't survive this, someone should know what happened. "This is Captain Sora, New Defense Station. Fleet inbound with overwhelming force. We have 53 vessels assembled for defense, mostly civilian. We're not going to win this fight, but we're going to make them pay for every meter." She closed the log and turned to her crew. "All weapons free when they're in range. Target their heavy cruisers first. Make every shot count." The fleet entered weapons range and immediately opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked across the void. The human defenders answered with, and whatever else they had. Cargo hauler shook as enemy fire hammered its shields. He targeted the nearest cruiser and fired. His slugs hit home, punching through the raider's armor. The ship didn't explode, vessels were tough, but it fell out of formation, venting atmosphere. "Reload and acquire new target," ordered. His crew worked frantically, loading fresh slugs into the magazines. Around him, the battle descended into chaos. A mining ship took a direct hit and broke apart. 2 patrol boats concentrated fire on a destroyer and managed to cripple its drive. The defense station's main batteries carved through raiders with precise efficiency. But there were too many. For every ship damaged, 3 more pressed the attack. On the station, Sora watched her defense grid slowly being torn apart. Weapon platforms died one by one. Ships disappeared from her tactical display. The screening line fell back, then fell back again. "Captain, we're getting a new contact," her sensor officer said. "No, multiple contacts. Human signatures, it's a fleet." On the edge of the system, Admiral Menu's reinforcement group dropped out of FTL. He'd scraped together every ship he could pull from patrol routes, 23 vessels, including 2 heavy cruisers and a carrier wing of fighters. It still wasn't enough to match 300, but Menu had learned something fighting on Earth. Wars weren't won by numbers alone. "All ships attack formation Beta," he ordered. "Target their command vessels. We're going to cut the head off this snake." His fleet accelerated into battle, and they suddenly found themselves fighting on 2 fronts. Lieutenant Song launched her fighter from the carrier. Her squadron of 12 fighters was pitifully small compared to the fleet, but fighters had one advantage. They were too small and fast for most capital ship weapons to track effectively. "All wings were running interference," she transmitted. "Draw fire away from the civilian ships. Make yourself annoying." Her squadron dove into the formation like angry wasps. Its targeting computer locked onto a cruiser's sensor array, and she fired. Her missiles weren't powerful enough to destroy a capital ship, but they could blind one. The cruiser's point defense took out 2 missiles. The third got through and detonated against the sensor cluster. The ship went dark, its targeting systems offline. "Scratch 1 set of eyes," reported, moving to next target. Plasma fire stitched across space near her fighter. Too close. Jinked hard, her combat harness cutting into her shoulders as G-forces tried to paste her against the seat. Something hit her fighter. Alarm screamed. Her cockpit canopy cracked and her suit automatically sealed as pressure dropped. "Lead, this is Song. I've taken damage, canopy breach, staying in the fight." She had no intention of retreating, not while there were still ships threatening new. The battle raged for 6 hours. They had numbers, but humans had fury. Civilian ships fought alongside military vessels. Damaged ships that should have retreated kept firing. Pilots with breached cockpits stayed in the fight. When Admiral Menu and the Third Fleet finally arrived with the full strength of humanity's military power, they found the already breaking. The raiders had expected an easy victory. Instead, they'd found a species that didn't know how to quit. That turned cargo haulers into warships. That kept fighting even when all logic said they should surrender. Gave the order to retreat. His fleet, what remained of it, jumped to FTL, leaving wrecks and debris behind. On the defense station, Sora slumped in her command chair. Her station was, half its weapons destroyed, running on backup power, but news still stood. "Get me a damage report," she said tiredly, "and someone find out how many ships we lost." The final count came in slowly. 18 ships destroyed, 23 damaged, nearly 400 humans dead. But over 1 million colonists were safe. Admiral Menu's face appeared on her display. "Captain, well done." Sora laughed, though it came out more like a sob. "Sir, we got lucky." "Luck had nothing to do with it. You held the line until reinforcements arrived. Your people fought like demons." Menu paused. "They won't forget this, neither will we." Sora looked out at Nu, at the world her people had defended. "Let them remember," she said quietly. "Let the whole galaxy remember. You don't threaten human colonies and walk away." The news of the Battle of Nu spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Within days, every species in the Galactic Council knew what had happened. The Swarm, one of the most feared raider organizations in known space, had brought 300 warships against a human colony. And lost. Ambassador Bay sat in her office on the council station, reading message after message from Earth's government. They all asked the same question in different ways. What happens now? The answer came 3 days after the battle when she received a formal summons to appear before the full Galactic Council, not the committee she'd spoken to before. The entire council, all 300 member species represented. Knew what that meant. The council had made a decision about humanity. She dressed carefully in her formal diplomatic uniform and walked to the council chamber alone. The gallery was packed with observers from dozens of species, all wanting to see what would happen to the Deathworld species that had proven too effective at violence. Council speaker called the session to order. The ancient looked tired, thought. The past week had probably been full of arguments and debates. Ambassador Bay began. The council has deliberated on humanity's status. We have reviewed the incident at the colony ship. We have analyzed the Battle of Nu. We have consulted experts on Death World species and military doctrine. Remain standing, waiting. The Council recognizes that humans saved lives at great risk to themselves. We acknowledge that Nu's defenders protected civilians against overwhelming odds. These are admirable actions. Here it comes, thought. However, continued, humanity's military capabilities represent a potential threat to galactic stability. Your weapons technology exceeds Council norms. Your combat effectiveness is unprecedented. Your willingness to engage in violence, even for noble purposes, concerns many members. The representative stood. The Council proposes that humanity be granted full membership, subject to certain conditions. Kept her face neutral. What conditions? A holographic document appeared in the center of the chamber. Scanned it quickly, her heart sinking with each paragraph. Human military forces would operate under Council oversight. Human weapons development would be monitored and restricted to Council-approved technologies. Human colony expansion would be limited to regions approved by the Council. Human faster-than-light capabilities would be shared with Council scientists for study and potential limitation. You're asking us to accept a leash, said quietly. We're asking you to integrate properly into galactic society, the replied. These restrictions are for everyone's safety, including your own. And if we refuse? Answered. Then humanity remains a probationary member with limited trading rights and no voice in Council decisions. Your species would be isolated from the larger galactic community. Looked around the chamber at the hundreds of representatives watching her. They were afraid. She could see it in their postures, hear it in the nervous sounds they made. They'd seen what humans could do, and it terrified them. I need to consult with my government, she said. This is not a decision I can make alone. You have 72 hours, said. After that, the Council will vote on humanity's status with or without your input. Left the chamber and immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Within an hour, the United Assembly convened an emergency session. Every nation's representative attended. Military leaders joined via hologram. The heroes of New Sara were all present. Captain and lieutenant connected from the Admiral Menu joined from his flagship. Commander linked in from a training facility. The Earth Council President, a woman named, opened the session. Ambassador Bay has presented the Council's proposal. We must decide. Do we accept their terms or reject them? The debate that followed was fierce. Some argued for acceptance. Humanity needed allies, needed access to galactic trade and technology. Others argued that accepting restrictions now would permanently limit humanity's potential. Admiral Menu spoke carefully. From a military perspective, these restrictions would cripple our ability to defend ourselves. They want oversight of our fleets, control of our technology, approval of our colonies. In military terms, they're asking us to surrender. But we're not at war, someone argued. We don't need to think like soldiers. They brought 300 ships to Nu, Sora said quietly. Everyone turned to listen. 300 warships against a barely defended colony. They did that because they knew we'd beaten them before and they wanted revenge. What happens next time? What happens when it's not raiders but a full council member who decides humans are too dangerous? The council wouldn't, a representative started. Wouldn't they? Captain interrupted. They're already trying to limit us because they're afraid. Fear makes people do stupid things. If we accept these restrictions, we're betting that the council will always be fair, always be reasonable. I'm not willing to bet Earth's future on that. Into the silence, a new voice spoke. Commander's hologram appeared, the commander from the Gentle Dawn. I asked to address this assembly, she said. President granted permission. Nodded. Commander, you're welcome to speak. I've been watching the council's debate about humanity with interest, began. I've heard the arguments about how dangerous you are, how your violence threatens galactic peace, how you need to be controlled. She paused, her large eyes sweeping across the human representatives. I was there when they boarded my ship. I watched my people die because we had no weapons, no warriors, no way to fight back. I sent a distress call knowing help wouldn't arrive in time, and then the humans came. His image moved closer. Your people terrify the council because you're good at violence, but you know what terrifies me? The council's response to my distress call. 5 hours. That's how long it would have taken the nearest council patrol to reach us. 5 hours of bureaucracy and authorization requests and committee approvals while my people died. The humans were there in 29 minutes. They didn't ask permission. They didn't calculate political costs. They heard someone needed help and they came. That's what the council fears, not your weapons but your willingness to act without asking permission first. The chamber was silent. The council wants to control you, continued. They want to make sure you never become a threat, but in doing so, they'll make sure you can never help anyone again. The next time someone sends a distress call and human ships are the closest response, you'll have to wait for council approval, and people will die. She looked directly at. I came to your assembly to say this. The galaxy needs you. Not the controlled, limited version the council wants to create. The real you. The Deathworld survivors who don't quit. The warriors who turn cargo haulers into warships. The people who save strangers because it's the right thing to do. His hologram bowed slightly. Whatever you decide, know that the people will stand with humanity. You saved us. We won't forget. Her image faded. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Lieutenant broke the silence. We need to send a message, she said. Not just to the council, but to the entire galaxy. We need to show them who we are. What kind of message? Asked. Admiral Minu smiled. The kind that says we're not the species that accepts change quietly. The vote was nearly unanimous. Earth's United Assembly drafted a response to the Galactic Council, read it 3 times before transmitting it, making sure every word was exactly right. Then she walked into the council chamber for the final time as probationary ambassador. The council awaits your government's decision, said. Stood in the center of the chamber, alone. 300 species watched her. She thought about all the humans who had fought and died to protect others. Thought about and his marines boarding a burning ship. Thought about Sara holding the line at Nu. Thought about ordinary people making extraordinary choices. Earth's United Assembly has reviewed the Council's proposal, she said clearly. We decline your terms. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. We will join the Galactic Council, continued, speaking over the noise, but as equals, not subordinates. We will operate under the same rules as any other council member. No additional restrictions, no special oversight, no limitations beyond what applies to everyone else. That is unacceptable, they said. Your species is too dangerous. Our species saved the when no council ship would arrive in time, cut him off. Our species defended Nu against 300 raiders with cargo haulers and civilian volunteers. We're dangerous when we need to be, but we're also loyal, brave, and we honor our commitments. She pulled up a hologram showing the human fleet disposition. We're offering the Council something valuable: access to human military expertise, training programs for Council defense forces, joint operations against raiders and pirates. We'll be the rapid response force you've never had." "And in exchange?" asked. "Respect, equal treatment, trust." Looked around the chamber. "We came to the stars looking for friends, not masters. We'll stand with the Council against threats. We'll defend those who cannot defend themselves. We'll honor our word, but we won't be caged." "And if the Council refuses?" someone asked. Admiral Menu's hologram appeared beside. "Then humanity will continue alone. We'll establish our own trade networks, defend our own colonies, and help anyone who asks for it, with or without Council approval." The threat was implicit. Humanity would become an independent power, operating outside Council control, a wild card in galactic politics. Conferred with other Council leaders. The debate lasted hours, stood and waited, refusing to show any weakness. Finally spoke. "The Council will put the matter to a vote. Full membership for humanity under standard terms with no additional restrictions. All in favor." The vote wasn't unanimous. Many species voted against, still afraid of what humans represented. But enough voted in favor, including the who used their considerable political influence to sway others. "The motion passes," announced. "Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately." Bowed formally. "On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I accept." As she left the chamber, representatives from dozens of species approached her. Some wanted to discuss defense treaties. Others asked about military training programs. A few simply wanted to know more about these strange Death World survivors. Answered them all patiently, professionally. Inside, she felt a fierce pride. Humanity had refused to be limited, and the galaxy had accepted them anyway. Across the galaxy, the swarm watched from their border territories. Their leaders had gathered to discuss the Council's decision. "The humans are now full Council members," one said. "With no restrictions on their military," another added. A long silence fell. "We will not engage human targets," the swarm commander decided. "Officially, the matter of Nu is closed. The humans have proven themselves too costly to fight." It was the closest thing to a peace treaty that had ever offered. On Earth, in the colonies, on ships scattered across human space, people celebrated. Not because they'd won some political victory, but because they'd stayed true to themselves. They were from Earth. They survived the Death World. They learned to thrive under impossible conditions. They made tools from rocks and reached for the stars. And now they had a place in the galaxy. Not as pets, not as controlled curiosities. As equals. Captain stood on the bridge of the, looking out at the stars. Lieutenant joined him. "We did it," she said quietly. "We did," agreed. "Now the real work begins." "What do you mean?" "We told the Council we'd be their rapid response force. We told them we'd defend those who can't defend themselves." Smiled. "We have to live up to that promise." "You think there will be more distress calls?" "I know there will, and when they come we'll respond, just like we always have." Somewhere in the depths of space, a new distress signal would eventually sound. And when it did, human ships would be there. Because that's what humans did. They came when called. They fought when needed. They never left anyone behind. The galaxy was learning that lesson. Some learned it when humans saved them. Others learned it when they made the mistake of being the threat humans defended against. Either way, the lesson was clear. Humanity had arrived. And the galaxy would never be the same.